Hey guys, this is Sean, Austin Summit. Woo! Yeah. So I had a topic that I wanted to ask about. And I know in one of the videos, Ronin says, in his personas video, he says, "Are you wearing a mask?" And when I look at all these other lifestyle experts and coaches and dating and whatever, and even personal friends, relatives, everybody is trying to create a congruent image of themselves. They have a person that they want to be and want to be perceived as. And so they will lie and misrepresent things and downplay failures and other things that they have to give that congruent appearance. And one of the things that struck me the most watching the videos was that you don't do that, like even to your detriment. Because you'll do things that make you look like dumb, and you'll do things that make you look like insane, and you'll do things that make you look like embarrassing. Like you'll admit to things, like some of your business ideas, and some of the when your business would fail, and some of the things you would have to do. I was like, I can't believe this person's admitting to this, because because I know this happens to people, and I've never heard anybody. I remember. Let's see. I remember specifically you had a GoFundMe for like one of those, you had an idea to do so you had that idea, and you got roasted in the media hardcore. Yeah. And people were inviting you on, and they would just trick you, and they would just bring you on, and then the whole time they would just write these disgusting articles about you, and just make you look like this complete fool, and just they'd misquote you, and they'd take out pieces from the thing. And I was like, I would be mortified. I'd be totally mortified to admit that I just got roasted alive like that. Or also like your businesses, like when that one person stole your business out of under you, and the details that you're giving on that, and things, and some of those things in my mind, I'm like, well, I would not have fallen for that. And so in my mind, I'm like, that's embarrassing that happened to him. But I know other people, I know this happens to other people all the time, and nobody, not close friends, not relatives, nobody has ever admitted crazy shit like that happening to them. But I know it does. And so I can tell with you are not attempting to create a good image of yourself. You're just being honest and truthful. And you'll look this way and look this way. And to me, I love that. I appreciate that so much. Somebody who can do that. Because I've always wanted to be that way. And of course, I'm not that way, right? I try to be, but it's so crazy to me that you're able to do those things, and you really are just putting yourself out there without trying to make yourself seem intelligent or make yourself seem experienced or put together. Like if something happens, you're like, oh yeah, this person scammed me. They lied to me. They told me, they should probably put the business in my name. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. And then I lost millions, or, I had this idea for this kind of toy, and
fucked over by that guy, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, I hear the story, and you'll tell the story. You won't just tell like, oh yeah, it happened. Hey, I've got faults. I'll admit to it. That's downplaying it, right? When you tell it, you start you get emotional, and I can hear you're crying sometimes when you're talking about it, and you're like, oh, this person did this to me, and then and you're like, oh, it got even worse. After they did this to me, I tried to do this and that, and I just made a complete fool of myself and everything. And it's the real emotions of you actually talking about it, and you hear that nowhere. You hear that nowhere. Like nobody really talks like that. And so for me, that was fascinating. I was like, I can't believe this person's. I was like, but even anonymously, I would never, I can't believe they're admitting to all this stuff. That's crazy to me. This person is so open. And I noticed, that gave you a superpower. Your ability to just say those things and just be yourself. I'm like, yeah, this happened to me. Yeah. And it was amazing. And I could tell that there were so many detriments that I had where I could not admit that I was wrong. And so it would stunt my growth. Or I didn't want to learn about this thing because I would suck at it and I'd make an ass of myself. And so I would never try. And it was limiting me in ways that I could tell you were not limited in. And that's what allowed you to grow to become such an amazing person. and to get all these experiences and like really develop yourself was that you didn't have those limits in place. And so for me, that was fascinating because I had never seen anyone like that before.
Interesting. Okay, it's part of my philosophy, right? So, it like, okay, for example, we just got a question here where there was a question, but he wasn't ready for the answer, right? And maybe would never be ready for that answer. Maybe that question, but it was a question, and it was a question that got a discussion started, right? So, in a sense, he's doing what you're talking about.
Yes.
Because he asked a question, and when I said, basically, you don't want to know the answer, you didn't get up and leave. See, a lot of people would say, fuck you, I came here to get support, and then now I asked a question, and you're telling me this, and it's not the answer he wants to hear, right? But the thing is my philosophy is the better I get over the bullshit I'm in my mind, the quicker, the better I'm going to be off, right? So, because then I don't have to carry that luggage around, right? So the people I want to hang around with are the ones who can do that quickly. They hear it and they're just like, of course they don't want to hear it, but they can listen to it and say, okay, all right, let me think about that. And the more it bothers you, the more true it usually is, right? So if it really bothers you, like, fuck, like I just will just say it because it's what I do to myself. You know what I mean? I kicked Joel off the tour, right? And I said something, right? And it was like, I thought about it and I'm just like, and then he came back. He came back here the first time to this event. It's because I just don't have time for it. Because if people are not wanting the truth, right? I just don't have time for it because I don't have time for it for myself. So I certainly don't have time for it with a lot of other people because it requires a lot of kind of walking around on eggshells, right? And I know that nothing's going to get fixed if this is not faced, right? So it's better just to say, like, if I can analyze, I'm not saying, like, if I know the answer, if it's obvious to me, right? I can see that there's something there. I've thought about it before. I've been through it before. I've watched other guys do it. I'm like 100% sure I know what's going on. Then I'll say it, right? Because I know that then I'm giving them a chance to see if they can hang, basically. Because if they can't hang with a little thing like that, like I'm going to do much harder stuff to myself, right? So if they can't hang with that, I'm just like, okay, I just no time for it because I gotta get over big shit in my life all the time, mistakes, this and that, and also to keep going because that's the way I am. Like I was always like, as a kid, I was a truth teller, right? Yeah. So when everybody else would look the other way, I'd be like, well, he's drunk, and everybody's like, oh, don't say that, It's like, well, he's fucking drunk, again, and I would just say it, right, as a kid. So I guess it was partly my nature is not to, and I think this is how people, even people that call themselves quote unquote red pill, what that is like you see the truth, right? And then you're calling the truth out. But most people that call themselves red pill, they can't do this kind of stuff. They can tell you're wrong. Right. But they don't tell themselves they're wrong. Okay. So red pill is about yourself. It's not about like your mistakes. When you admit your mistakes and you say, okay, I can handle this one ego-wise. Now, there must be an answer. See, I'm not going to say that if there's no answer. If somebody's dying of cancer, there's no need to say you shouldn't have smoked, right? Because that's the truth, but there's no point in it, right? The reason why I'm going to say it is A, if it's true, and B, if there's a point. So if they can still change and do something new, and then come back in with more honesty, right? And come back in the next time with a better question, like having sussed out the question, thought about themselves, and like they can even say like, hey, I'm not ready to hear the answer, but let me tell you this. That's okay, because there's honesty there, right? It's not like you have to be ready to do everything. It's just a matter of being able to see through what you're doing. You can see what you're doing and then come to it, right? So I think sometimes, it's good to say, I don't want the answer yet, but I have this problem. And somebody could do that this weekend. I used to do this all the time when I was younger because I realized that I was not, to get to this stage I'm at now, I went through a series of stages. So what I did in the beginning was I'd be in a group and I would say, everybody else was fake. They'd like, oh, I need an answer to this. Should I get divorced? They don't want the answer, right? They're just talking shit. So I was like, okay, I'm going to tell you guys something, but I don't want the answer. And don't even fucking talk to me afterwards about it. Like, I don't want to fucking talk about it. I just want to say it. That's how I started. And then people would just be like, whoa, I never heard this before. But this is how you change big stuff, right? You can't change everything at once. So it's a step of admitting it, okay, if you're not ready to change, and then just admitting the problem. Like, I know there's a problem, and I know that I'm not ready.
Right.
That's the biggest step. Because then you put it out there, right? And then once you put it out there, sometimes even like right after that, I start to feel ready to hear. Because once I told you, I don't want to fucking hear it, right? And then you guys all respect it. And then I'm just going, wow, that's so cool. I was able to say it. Instead of everybody trying to help, they're just sitting there. And then I'm like, that's fucking cool. Okay, so now I admit it. Now what do I think now? Sometimes I'll be like, actually, I want to hear something now. What do you think? And they'd say, well, I thought you don't want to hear. So now, you might choose one person that you would like to hear it from or something, right? So you don't have to, you can do it different ways. You can let the group or whatever. But the only way you change big stuff is you got to be willing to be wrong. This is the problem with the whole, when listening to all the videos, is nobody's ever fucking wrong anymore in this world. Nobody's ever fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. I'm listening to these guys and everything they knew before, everything they used to be dumb, but now they're smart. They're never fucking wrong. They're never like, I'm making a dumb decision right now and it sucks. They can never admit anything anymore. I swear to God, people don't even know what it means anymore. Like, no, I'm serious. Like, there's in the 12-step groups, they have like an inventory, and you do the fifth step. You're telling somebody all the things you did wrong, right? I listen to these now, and I'm like, I get to the end of it, I'm like, everything what you said was justified by something else. Like, they fucked you over, so you fucked them over. I'm like, you never were wrong. It's your one fucking chance in your inventory. You're supposed to finally clean house, right? Where was I wrong? And I listen to these people like, I'm just amazed. I'm in sheer like amazement listening to them. I'm like, he's talked for 2 hours and he's never wrong. Like, and this is this inventory that's going to change his life. I'm like, that's when I finally started realizing how much people were not doing it. I was like, when I go to my inventory, I'm wrong. I was wrong about that. I made a mistake on that. I misjudged that. I'm not good at that. I don't know how to do that. And then I admitted, right? Then I got something to work with, right? Yeah. So I think the thing is that I do it sometimes in steps. So that's one thing is I'll tell people I don't want to hear the answer. And if anybody talks to me with the answer, like, fuck them. Like, really. Like, when you're not ready to hear something, you're not ready. And if you're honest enough to tell them, and then they don't understand what you're saying, is you're telling them something's too raw. It's too raw to hear yet. I just want to say it. It's public now. Can't take it back. And then later work on it, right? So you can do that layered approach where you go down to it, right? And the other one is just to start realizing, like, just think about it when you go home tonight. Like, am I never wrong? You know what I mean? Like, am I never wrong? If you're never wrong, you're fucked. That's my opinion. You got to be wrong a lot to be right. Oh, yeah. That's the only way. You got to be wrong. And then you say, fuck, we're wrong, And then when you can be wrong, then you can be right. I really think that's true. I just thought of that. It's like, you got to be wrong to be right. You have to. You have to admit you made a mistake. Most people, they just fucking don't do it. I mean, I always think of, like, I've been studying so much about Tesla, but I always think of like SpaceX. Their first rocket was made of carbon fiber, right? Because it's the lightest, strongest material. But then they realized that it's really hard to make a rocket out of carbon fiber. So you have to make like 30 rockets to make one that works. Because one little error and the whole thing doesn't work, right? It's not like you can weld it or fix it, or if a carbon fiber. So what happened was they made a perfect carbon fiber. It went up. It was awesome. And then Elon's like, we need to go to Mars. We need 1 million of these. And they're like, oh, these take a long time and they're really hard to make. And he's like, well, you need a new material. And what that meant is have to fire the whole team because they're all carbon fiber guys. And they're like, well, we know the other materials are not as good. He's like, well, we need a new material because we can't make enough of these to do what we need to do. And they're like, so they went back to stainless steel, which isn't as good, but it's easier to make. So in the end, that was the way, what they needed to do. So not only did they have to admit they were wrong, even though carbon fiber is right. Like carbon fiber is right. If for one rocket, carbon fiber is right. But for a lot of rockets to go to Mars, it's not right. For buses to Mars, it's totally not right. Right. So, a race car is different than a Toyota Corolla, right? So he just said, well, it's not a fucking Toyota Corolla. So we need Toyota Corolla, and it's got to be a goddamn good one, to go to Mars, and they're like they, of course, guys had to get fired, I'm sure. I did headhunting. Like, if there's a new material, you got to fire guys. They just don't know another material, right? So a lot of shit had to happen. The whole company didn't even know if there was a future for a period there. I was watching it. I bet you the whole company was worried about shutting down because they didn't have a material. And stainless steel, was difficult to switch over, and to find one that would work. There's a lot of specifications that are difficult, so price, weight, strength, heat. There's so many different things, right? So easy to manufacture, easy to get the materials. And of course, Tesla's even worse because they want to get it environmentally friendly way. Yeah. So if you get it from like 10-year-old kids in Africa, then Tesla's not going to use it. So they have really high expectations for their stuff, right? So that's that in the end. But I think what it was, Musk said, they said, well, we might have to shut down the whole company. He says, well, then that's what we got to do because we can't go to Mars. So if you guys can't do it, he probably said, well, then we'll just close down SpaceX. And they're like, fucking A, we got to make a fucking rocket. We got to make a fucking Toyota Corolla to go to Mars with a new material. And, it's like you're running and you're trying to take a shit at the same time, right? How the fuck do you do that, right?
They get messy.
Yeah, it's like, it's going to be messy, yeah. It's going to be messy, You're doing a marathon, you don't have time, you got to take a shit, While they're going, they had to make new rockets. That's fucking hard. They have like rentals, they're paying on spaces and salaries and everything, right? So I think the key thing is he could see that the goal had been misunderstood, right? The goal was to do something else, and that could never do it, right? But he didn't realize it until they finally told him. He thought, this is going to be good, and we'll just make a bunch of them. Then he found out that it's really hard to make them. You know what I mean? So it was like sometimes you don't know the truth, and then you find out the truth. So that's the worst thing. You go to school for 4 years, and then you realize you don't want to be an accountant. That's a tough thing to admit. So it's not just small things. Like your whole life is based on something. And for me, I'll just admit, I just wasted my whole fucking life on something that sucks, right? That's how I can turn away from things that I don't think are true. So if I believe something, right? If I believe something and then I find out that it's not true, I can just turn because I'm like, nope. Even if my whole life's based on it, all my friends are doing this, I look like an idiot. I'm like, I don't believe that. That's not true. So I won't do that. So I'll just say, I don't know what I'm going to do. See, I'm always willing to do nothing, like to look like an idiot, because that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So if I trust myself, if I shut down SpaceX or whatever it is in my life, shut down my own little thing, I'll just say, you know what? I don't want to fucking do. And people will say, why you always change your mind? It's like, no, they don't understand. I didn't see that it couldn't go to Mars. It wasn't going to be what I wanted to do. So most people, they don't really, they just, once you got a career, you just do it. Once you believe something, you just believe it. No matter what comes up, you never change. It's like, this is my social system. These are my people. This is my fucking thing. For me, I'll switch on a moment. Like if I stop believing whatever, I'll just shut down Ronin in 2 seconds. Like no problem. Like it's like I'm only here because it's going to the goal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would totally not be here. Like 100% wouldn't be here. So the advantage of being like that, or whatever you call this, is that I think there's a lot of advantages. One is it's simple. You don't have to spend a lot of time justifying things. Like, oh, I just spent 4 years. I just lost $100,000 or whatever the fuck. I don't care. Like, I do not care at all. Well, there's not enough time. I don't care. That won't do what I thought it could do. I was wrong. So I'm going to do something else. What are you going to do? What are people going to think about you? How are you going to pay rent? I don't know. But this does not work, right? And it becomes easier and you make less mistakes when you're honest that way. Because, I don't know, you just kind of, you adapt. So you realize that you're going to change. So you better fucking figure it out fast because you're not going to be the guy who just lives with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I do the same thing with relationships. You know, if I discover somebody is not who I thought they were, that's it. That's it. It's a guillotine, big time. That's fucking it. There is no going back because I see it. It's just, that's it. It's that simple. I see it now that this cannot go to Mars with multiple buses to Mars at a reasonable price. I'm not making an engine company to make engines to look cool or be on some space thing. I want to do, you have your mission, right? What's your mission? So a lot of people, they pivot, right? This is what a lot of people do. They call it pivoting, but actually they just compromise and live a shitty life, That's what most people do. They'll just like, okay, now I'm a XYZ job and I got a job and it sucks, but hey, as long as nobody else knows it sucks. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it's like the guy who's married to the total fucking nightmare person, right? And as long as their friends don't find out, then it's fine, right? Or like somebody finds out they're gay. Like so people, when somebody said I'm gay, I was like, I said, if I was gay, I would be gay in 2 seconds. Like there's no question about it. If I was gay, 1 second, you guys would know. Like there would be no mistaking it. You know what I mean? If I like trans or gay, I wouldn't even bother thinking about it because I'd be like, oh, that's it. I want to go that way and I'll go that way, right? But the thing is so I think that's the advantage for me is like my brother, the people that know me for a long time, is they trust me in a way because a lot of people will be your friend, yes, but it's just a compromise because you live near them or you are the whatever. Yeah. And so they're just going to go and they're just going to be near you, even though they don't really like you, right? Or whatever, because it works not just in their jobs, but in everything in their life, right? They're just going to ignore and make, whereas for me, I wouldn't do that. So if I'm here, that means I want to be here. That's it. It's super simple. Yeah. So you don't have to say, oh, glad, thanks for coming. It's like, well, I wanted to be here. There's no need, I wouldn't do it if I didn't want to be here. So it's not possible to really thank me because, you know what I mean? I would never do it if I didn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. So, it doesn't need it, There's no need for it, right? I want to be here, so that's why I'm here, End of story, right? So other people, you thank them because they're faking it, right? They, oh, thanks for doing something fake. Oh, thank you. You're very welcome. Anytime you need something fake, you just let me know, It's like that's how most people live, and they're happy with it, right? And they compromise on everything all the time. They think it's normal, actually. Compromise. Right?
That's one of the things you said right there. That's
just my philosophy. That's the way
That's one of the things that makes me like you so much is because you're a truth teller. I like that. I like that criticism. I like when you said when you told Steve, you said, well,
I told you in fucking Pensacola on the hike, you should tell them. That's fucking, you passed the test.
Oh
yeah.
I'm not even sure if I remember it. It was such a long time ago.
Dude, we were walking. Okay, we were walking, right? Okay, we were walking in. We went down to the railroad tracks that day, morning, that Saturday morning, I think it was. Yeah, and then we got down there, and then you were basically saying, I don't know why all my friends are basically not wanting me to be around, and I was like, be careful telling me stuff because I'm gonna say something, right? I go, well, you're fucking socially awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're probably pissing everybody off all the time.
Yep.
You know, I've seen you piss people off since I've been with you. So you're probably pissing people off. That's what I said. Yeah. I said, I've seen you piss people off a lot. You just don't know it. Maybe you have a little autism or something. That's what I said.
Yeah.
I said, maybe you're a little bit autistic or something. And then you were like, I am a little bit actually. Yeah. And like, I want to get better on that. How do I know about people? And so he passed like right away. It was like, no problem. And so, you know, that was why when you came to Summit, I was all excited because I was like, that's a pretty harsh fucking thing. Most people could never, they don't want to know or anybody else to know that they're a little bit autistic. It's like some kind of big deal. To me, it's not a big deal. Like if I'm fucking autistic, I'm fucking autistic. Who fucking gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Nobody has time. Nobody gives a fuck if you're autistic. Some people are fucking autistic. So fucking what? Like it's not a put down. Yeah, I said it because I meant it, you know. I'm like, I think you're a little bit autistic on the spectrum somewhere. And the thing is, I don't know if you are. I mean, I'm not sensitive. But you were. I could sense it. You're also very good at math. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you have. Elon Musk admitted. What did he admit he was? Asperger's, right? Yeah. You know, you have different skills, right? He's the richest guy in the world. It didn't hurt him, you know. Obviously, right? You know. So the thing is, I don't say these things like most people would do. Is say it as an insult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just saying because that's the fucking truth. Like, if you're going to ask me, if I know the answer, I'm just going to tell you.
And nobody does that.
Nobody
criticizes me like
well, also, a lot of people don't even see it. They might think you're an asshole, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is, I could see that it was something like in you natural. That's why I said you might be on the spectrum. I didn't say that you're being an asshole to people, right? Yeah. That's a big difference. Because I didn't think you were being an asshole. It wasn't like a politically correct thing. I just thought, I think you're a little bit autistic. You don't sense what people are feeling that well. And so because you don't know it or admit it, you're not trying really hard. Like if I'm bad at something, I have to try really hard, right? Because otherwise I'm never going to be good at it. If I pretend like I'm a good surfer, I could tell all you guys I'm a great surfer and nobody would know the difference because I grew up on the beach and I look like a surfer, right? So you'd be like, oh, of course, Paul's a good surfer, right? Or, you know, Ronan's a good surfer. But then I'd be scared you'd see me surf, right? And I'd have to live this fake life about this thing. Well, it's much easier for me to say, oh, I'm a bad surfer, even though I surfed my whole life. Now, I'm also a very good waterman in general. Like, you know, so I have, that's another thing, you know, swimming, body surfing, rescuing people, right, swinging riptides, just pure speed. Like I'm a very fast swimmer. So yeah, I'm like extremely fast. So the thing is, but that doesn't affect my fucking fact that I suck at surfing. And I always wanted to be good at surfing. It's been very difficult for me, you know, to do that. But also I can ride a longboard, which if you surf, you know, that's not really surfing. It's like fake, you know. I mean, longboarding is kind of bullshit. I mean, it's just as fun, but if you're a hardcore surfer, anybody listening, Tim down in Australia, you're going to know what I'm talking about. It's just too easy, right? Anybody can do it the first day. Surfing is like pain for years. You know?
Sitting on the board, balancing on the board.
You just like standing on the ground, except you're on a board. You just have to like judge the wave and get on it. I'm not saying in many ways, it's just as fun as surfing, right? And so don't get me wrong. It's not like longboarding is a waste of time. Like, you know, it's different. It's like somebody who goes to horse and somebody who does pickup. You both end up with girls, but there's a huge difference with somebody who does it on their own with people they like and has the guts to do things they're afraid of, and somebody who hides behind paying money and just, you know, is like so afraid of life that they're going to pay for an essential part of their manhood to be solved for them, which I think is a very bad idea, by the way, if you didn't guess. And it's a very bad idea, you know, because you need to know to do things in life, right? Certain things, even if you don't do them, right? You just need to know about them, right? How to do them, just in case, right? It's important. It's important. Certain things you just need to know, I think. You need to know. Maybe because you have fear or whatever, but, you know, like you need fucking to know that. And so that's all I'd say about that, yeah.
So getting hurt sucks. I mean, like, and going towards something that's gonna hurt you, or like is hard to admit. Like, you know that you're going towards an area that is gonna suck. Like when you stub your toe, like, you know, you try to avoid doing that again. So like it's almost like it's naturally inherent to like avoid fixing your problems. And then like that's one thought, and then my other thought is that like the difference between going to a whore or finding girls you like, or longboarding versus
or a real tree, right?
Yeah, like the fake plastic tree is not real. It's not really life. Like if you're going to a whore, or if you're longboarding, and you're avoiding, like going for girls the natural way or actual surfing, on a shortboard, like
you got like a fake shirt with fake muscles on it.
That's that's freaking life, and you're not living unless you're doing the real deal. And actually, Kenji had to talk to me last night about that. But anyway, like. The doing the real thing is hard and it hurts, but it's something that you just got to overcome.
Well, I don't know if you have to overcome it. I mean, other people can live another way, but I'm just telling you the way. I'm my philosophy right now.
Well,
why I say things. That's why I do things.
You've gotten good at your philosophy because not only did you do it once, but you did it repetitively. And like the more you do something, the better you get at it. So like if you're real once and you're real, it's hard. But if you're real all the time, it's just easier. It's getting in the flow. It's up there with the upward spiral.
Right. Now, if people aren't into it, it just weeds them out of my life. I don't have to waste time with them, right? Because like I don't always. So that's what I do. Like for example, I think personally that's why my coaching is so unique. Because I'll tell you. Yeah. You're fucking up big time. Like, and they'll be like, oh, well, I'm paying you, that kind of person, get the fuck out. Yeah. Here's your money. Like, get the fuck out of, I don't need it. Mm-hmm. Like, I like to solve the problems. Like, it's not like I'm literally like seeing, we can't go to Mars here. And that's all I'm saying. So when I say it, I'm not saying like, you're wrong, you're bad. All I'm saying is we can't go to Mars. So what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, we can't do it. This is what the whole thing is. Like, how long are we going to dance around this? You got a fake fireplace. It's like, that's a fake fireplace. Yeah. You got that paper blowing with the light behind it. It's like, that's not going to get you warm. You're not going to warm up with that. So how long are you going to sit there at that fucking fake fire? Right?
I remember.
That's it. So that's what I do. Like, if somebody wants some kind of change, that's what I do. That's why, I think that's why it's different. That's why some people like will tell me like I had like all kinds of things. I don't want to say his name, but one guy said, I've been to all kinds of psychologists, this and that. And he said, like in 1 hour, you changed my life. And it's because I just could see something he was basing his whole life on that was bullshit. I could see it. And everybody had bought into it. And I said, no, you're fucking wrong. You're lying. And I said, you did this. And he's like, he could not talk for like 5 minutes. Damn. And like, he was just like, could not talk. And then finally, I dug in more because I figured, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like either we're going to do this thing, it's going to be real or not. And this guy was basing his whole life on a lie. I'm just like, fuck it. I'm just going to say it again, more hardcore this time. Because I want to drive him away. I want to drive you away. See, because if you can be driven away, then you shouldn't be here. Right? So that's it. So I don't mind. Like if it drives you away, you couldn't go to Mars. You know what I mean? We got to be able to go to Mars. Right? We got to be able to do the things we say. The things we say we want to fucking do. You know? That's why I said make your fucking channel, because you talked about it before. Dale talked about it before, and he didn't do it. So I'm like, okay, you're going to make this thing this weekend, or I'm not going to trust you that you're going to do things. So it's about, you got to do it. You got to press the record button, right? And then once you press the record button, once you try, everything changes, right? But if you're saying you're going to do something, you have to do it. That's it. You know? And then you can change your mind later. You don't want to do it. That's fine. I don't mind that at all. Because you learn, right? When you do things, you're like, oh, I don't like this. Or I'm not good at this. Or no one wants to hear my stuff. Or I don't have enough ideas. Or whatever. You know, or I have another idea. I want to do more, right? And that's fine. I don't mind, you know, people like quickly saying, oh, this won't work. I'm going to try this. I don't mind that. Oh, that didn't work. I'm going to try this. That's totally fine. You know, but at the end of the day, if you do it too many times and you don't really do anything, I'm going to say, you know, okay, now we're playing this merry-go-round of things, but like, what are we going to do here? You know, and so it's a matter of getting over the blocks. Like, do you want to change or not? Like, if you don't want to change, then don't ask for help, basically. Yeah. Then stop asking for help if you don't want to change. Just say, look, I'm not ready for change, but here's my problem. That's fine. I'm not going to say shit, and we're going to go have a fun day. See, because then it's honest, right? So that's the thing. That is somewhere, right? Going to Mars is sometimes just that kind of thing, right? It's about getting to the stage where you're able to admit, right? This is the big thing. Because then once you admit something, then it can be changed, right? Because you're the only one in charge of your life. That's it. There's nobody else. So if you can't admit you're wrong, how the fuck are you going to change? It's like coming to somebody, I want to change, but I'm not wrong. Okay. Like a sense, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like the reason why you change is for everybody does something. They buy things for you could buy a million things, right? But you buy something specific. You buy a weight loss thing. You buy, whatever the fuck it is. You buy a new suit. It's because out of all the things in your life, this is the most pain, right? Like a tooth. It like really hurts. So you go to the dentist and fix that first. It's not the most important thing, but it just really hurts the most, right? That's why you go to help. It's because something's really painful, right? And if it isn't, then what are you doing, right? So it's like, you buy a truck for a reason. You think you're going to get laid, at least admit it. It's not going to get you laid, right? So that's why the first thing I would say is that the way to get laid is to learn pickup if you want to get laid, or learn an online game or something if you want to get laid, right? Don't waste a lot of money on stupid things. Like, don't ask a bunch of morons advice about how to get laid because it's not going to be good advice. Society is fucked. They do not understand these kind of things. You need somebody who's like expert in that, right? And then you don't say, I'm going to do this. You're like, okay, here's the deal. What do I have to do? Like, what's wrong? What am I doing wrong? What I want this goal, and I'm sitting here trying all this fucking bullshit, and none of it works because I think I'm doing something. I'm not seeing this right, or something's wrong. And then that starts, okay, you're wrong. Okay, good. Okay, hallelujah. That's the beginning, And then it's just like, okay, maybe we can get somewhere with that, right? It's going to come from you anyway. In the end, it's not going to come from me, but it's like I can get you to, get over that where you got this mask on. I said, get that mask off, right? And then it's okay. Now there's somewhere to go with that, right? So I think that's my philosophy, right? And that's what's different about me is I do it myself. So on my videos, a lot of people will criticize me, right? Now, a lot of the criticism is somebody who doesn't know me. Maybe they misunderstood something. So it's not always like, it could be a nice guy, but he doesn't really understand there's something I didn't say for a reason to protect somebody, or I just forgot to mention it or whatever. So not always they know me. So the advice is not always good, but sometimes, the advice is good. So when it's somebody like that, I do appreciate it because I also, one of the reasons why I made Ronin Man is because I knew I had a lot of bad ideas that hadn't been thought through and so I wanted to kind of put it out there. And then I knew that, obviously bad ideas are not going to make the chance. It's good ideas, but I also knew there was a lot of things that I was lying to myself about or didn't see properly, or I didn't know every aspect of something, right? So I would kind of throw it out to a lot of people. So that's what I do when I have a problem. I won't just tell one person. It's not about, this is another aspect of this, actually, a key aspect. So when I need something, what I'll do is I have certain friends, like say 10 friends, right, that I will send my situation to. And then, some of them are busy because it usually be long, right? It might be an audio 2 hours long. It might be a long document, whatever. And I'll kind of just say, okay, here's what's happening. And then maybe like 4 guys will respond. And then 2 will have like really deep answers. And so I don't just say it to one person. So in other words, admitting I'm wrong is not everything. Okay, so if you're not wrong, you can't change. Okay, that's just the way it is. But the next thing, you got something wrong, you're doing something wrong, you don't understand what you're doing, whatever. Then you want to tell more than one person. So that's why I keep trying to get you guys to be honest in a group, because everybody's like, oh, I don't want to be honest on camera. Like, I want to be honest with you alone. It's like, no, there's nothing wrong with that. But that's not the answer. See, because it's like, it's one step is to tell one person because now you're starting to be honest with yourself. That's a good step, right? But putting it out to more people, the more people you put it out to, the more chance somebody's going to know something because there's a lot of smart guys listening. So they're going to, and they have the right, they know what we're doing here. So they're like, okay, I see what he might be missing here. And then you'll read the comments and you'll be blown away because you're putting it out not in an echo chamber, you're putting it out to a group of intelligent people. So if you can't admit you're wrong, you can't even tell one person. But if you can admit you're wrong to a lot of people, then of course it's very cathartic, but also the better you describe your problem, like why you're wrong and how wrong you are, the better you describe that, the better chance that somebody, this is the sugar, is that there's a reason. It's not like you're just putting yourself down. You're trying to fucking do something better, right? So the only way is by putting it out to smart people, and maybe somebody will come up with something for you, right? So it's a step of things, right? First, I'll admit it without wanting any, then I'll ask, open to new things. I'll be strong enough to hear, and then I'll want to put it out to several people. And I'll do it like really honest. Like my good friends, like they're used to it. Like the things I send them, they never send me. You know what I mean? It's like, it's my way of, I use this in every aspect of my life. And that's why I don't have any time for it. And that's why I have no time for it at all, because I do it on a level you don't even know, right? So yeah, privately with groups of people that I know. So it's a total philosophy, right? So that's, if I ever am off that, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like it won't be for very long because I'm always going to come back to it. I just found it was easier. It's just easier for me. For me, it's easier. Like it's always easier that way in the long run. When I see the long ball, it's easier. It's easier to lose the friends that there's no value to them. You know what I mean? It's easier just to lose them, So it's easier to lose that. It's easier to have to start over from scratch than it is for me to live a lie, which is very difficult, right? So, it's all new change, but it's easier for me. So I know that. So in a way, for me, I know it's the lesser of two options, really. It's the easier of two options. Because I can spend my whole life lying to myself, right? Which requires an enormous amount of energy. And it's not going to work. Or I can say, okay, this is going to suck. This is going to suck a lot short term, but, I'm going to find things. And so, yeah, so that's why it's different. And honestly, I've never heard everything I'm saying here. And I don't know people like this. So that's why part of the reason I want to tell more people is so that somebody out there is like, oh, I understand what you're saying. Like, there's people that just groove with ideas. And they're like, I totally get that. You know what I mean? And then they'll be on board, right? So for me, it's like I'm putting out like a signal in space, right? And somebody has a receiver to hear it. And their radio's like, beep, 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 and they hear the morning news from my broadcast. And they're like, oh, I totally understand that. So it's those rare people who will understand, and then some people will say, I listened, like the last episode I uploaded, somebody who's a really good guy. I know him well. He said, I don't understand this episode at all. But he wasn't saying this sucks because he's listened to a lot of stuff before. But he was just saying, like, truthfully, I have no idea what I said. And I couldn't answer because I didn't know what I said. I know I said something in that one, but I couldn't put it into words. Sometimes, like, good ideas sounds weird, but can't be put into words. Like, a lot of times in my videos, I cannot think of what the title is. Like, every title is dishonest, It's like none of these titles describe what I just talked about, but I got to write something. So I'll write this, And so sometimes I try to describe it. Other times I'll choose something that people might search for, because then at least they'll listen to it and then they might know. It's the same reason why I want to do a story about pickup with a bunch of guys who came from Amygdala, because I think once you hear the different aspects of yourself and society and life and your emotional stability, your confidence as a man, your ability to navigate and things, your testosterone, all the things like that. When you hear the whole thing, you'll be like, oh, I get why I would want to know, but you might not know why you want to know that now. So it's like, So I think also the more you do that, the more people will give you a break and say, okay, I'm going to listen to that. Not even just sitting here, but like actually listen, right? Because you'll be like, okay, I'm going to take a chance that this is not a waste of time, right? And I'm actually going to listen. And then because you're like, well, he said many things before that I thought were weird, but then I listened to it, thought about it, I could use it in some other way. So maybe this will be useful in something totally different than pick up. Like the skills I learned, maybe they'll be useful in your life in another way. I'm not saying you're going to pick, I'm just saying like the whole thing is interesting. So I think it'll provide some value. And so it's worth hearing. So that's kind of like the problem too, is when you go into the unknown, see, when you lie, it's always very known because you always have a correct label on things, right? Because you know what image you're going to portray. Damn. I'm going to portray this macho image, or I'm going to portray this. So it's very easy to title it because it's like, here's the fake person I'm going to be. And people are like, I love hearing the right fake person because the video is titled correctly and this is the fake person he is. Okay, good. That's the way most people are on YouTube, and that they want to hear. Yeah, they don't want to hear the truth, right? And then I might say one other interesting thing, very interesting, I learned about this is, okay, so for anybody, knows me well, I was on TV. I've been on TV. I've been in movies. I've done things like a lot, different things. I'm not a movie star, but I've been in a lot of weird things, okay? Just by chance. So anyway, and also I've been in the media a lot, but a lot of different things. You don't even know, like a lot of different projects, right? So for different things, right? So when I was in the media or talking to people in the media or helping people shoot TV shows, because I actually kind of it wasn't a TV production company, but we made a lot of TV, and I don't want to say what it was because then you might search it. But I got to work with a lot of TV people and media people. So when everybody's like, mainstream media don't believe anything, these people don't know any mainstream media people. So they don't understand the constraints they're working under and why it is the way it is, right? I'm not saying it is trustworthy. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the more you know about it, the more you'll understand about life, right? So I actually helped these guys make shows, presented ideas. I said, you should take this, it'll go viral. And they'd explain why they're not going to do it and what it was wrong with my idea or what will not work with quote unquote journalist ethics, right? And so what are journalist ethics and why they don't do certain things, right? And so I'm not saying be unethical about journalism. What I'm saying is like journalist ethics in some ways are like almost like structure of a essay or something. They're not like right or wrong. They're just a structure of the essay. If it's unstructured and like run-on sentences, then it wouldn't fit the rules of grammar. Doesn't mean it's not true. It's just that it doesn't fit in what a journalist is supposed to do. A journalist never predicts the future, right? They're not supposed to predict. They're supposed to have sources proven. But what I like, the kind of news I like, is when somebody can look at everything happening and say, I think this is going to happen next. So I think you should prepare for this. But I think this is, a real journalist will never write that because that's commentary. That's editorial. That's not news. And so he's not going to say that. I think the only kind of news I want to read, I already know what's going on now. I want somebody who has experience and they're going to make that prediction of here's what I think you should be careful about. And so my ideas are always like that. So they don't ever fit with journalists. So my ideas, the journalists never run my ideas because it's always like, well, how do you know that? And I'll be like, well, it's because this guy told me that. And they're like, well, you have to quote him. And I'm like, well, he could never be quoted, that guy. And they're like, well, then you can't. You have to say unnamed source. Well, unnamed, they're going to know who he was. There's only one guy who works in this position in the government, so everybody's going to know or whatever. It gives it away. And they're like, well, then you can't do the story. Like, there's all these rules. Like, so for me, like, the thing is like, because I've been thinking about a lot. I was talking to my brother when he was visiting, but it's like I see another way of doing things. But okay, through the media. Okay, here's where I was going with this. Is through the media and working with media and knowing media people, I learned how it works, working in the media. And because of that, okay, so most people will say the advantage of YouTube is that you can be yourself. But most YouTube producers are lying to you. They're lying, right? And so why are they lying? That's the interesting thing. It's no, on the internet, on the YouTube.
Yeah, it's a TV show. They're trying to perceive something.
Well, it's very difficult, to be honest.
They're trying to target certain demographics.
That's later. The thing is, they are like, they don't want to hear. So they're not going to tell on themselves. They're not going to say, I would open, if I was you, I would open a podcast with what I just said and how it was wrong or whatever. That's the way I would open with it, right? Right off the bat, I would just say that. Because then I know I'm going to get somewhere with this, right? So because it requires you to be a certain person that can handle this thing I just described,
Yeah.
most people are not that. So even though they have the tool that could do that, they don't have the tools inside themselves to do it. And so they don't have the honesty and the willingness to hear they're wrong and the search for truth. They don't have the clear, we can't get to Mars with this kind of thinking. It's very easy once you understand what I say. It's actually very simple. It's not like it takes a lot of thinking. You'll be like, oh my God, I cannot get to Mars with this. This is impossible. And so it's like, okay, I'm not going to do this. Well, aren't you a doctor? Not anymore. Like I took a master's degree. I signed up for a master's degree with Aston University in UK. I was in the middle of the course and I suddenly realized it was all bullshit. Like in the middle of the course. Because everybody that was studying with had said something in the beginning, and then I asked the same question, and they're all lying to me. And I literally did this, you guys. I had all the books. I had paid 10 grand for that year, and it was a distance learning. But I stood up in the middle. And I said, "All of you guys are liars. The first day of class, you told me you were getting this degree to make more money, and it was just a degree. Now you're telling me you believe in this. No one changes like that. You guys are just getting this degree to make more money, but now you're going to be dishonest about it." And I'm like, I thought this was going to be a good way to learn. But if everybody is getting this degree is like this is a total waste of time because I'm just getting this degree to get a university professorship, right? It turns out I can get a professor degree without that master's degree, right? By pure luck, I got it another way, which is not easy, to be a professor. But you can. There's honorary professors. There's ways to get a professorship without a master's or PhD. So ways to get it, right? Yeah. So basically I got it another way, right? But I think that was before I got it. But the thing is like I could just see this waste of time. So I literally did this. I stood up, I put my books on the table. You guys can have these books, sell them back. I said, I'm quitting this class. And they said, well, you can't have your money back. And I'm like, I'm going to be a businessman. And I went and became a headhunter. I just went right then. It was very dramatic. I just said, because I just knew it. I just can't get to Mars on this, And then my parents were like, what are you doing? These are great jobs in Japan. A professor job is so secure, right? It's unbelievably secure. It's ridiculously communist secure. You can't even be fired. It's tenure. Once you get tenure, you're fucking done. It's the most secure job ever. But see, I don't want to be secure. I don't like security.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No, I always want to be ready to go. But I don't mind good things, But it's like, I don't want the security because what people mean by security is laziness and mediocrity, right? So I don't want that. So I have no desire for that. I have no desire to be protected by any walls or any moats because that's just going to make me lazy because I know myself. So if the moat is there, then I'm going to, like let's say, for example, let's say a moat. Everybody says, well, Ronin's right all the time, right? And let's say all you guys believe that and you told everybody that. Then that's a moat, right? I don't like these kind of moats. I do not want these kind of moats in my life. These are nightmares for me because then it's like all of a sudden, easy trapdoor to be dishonest, to not be improving, right?
Surrounded by yes men.
I'm surrounded by yes men. That's exactly what happens to people. Is they surround themselves. They want to be surrounded by yes men. They dream to be surrounded by yes men. They dream to be surrounded by security. They dream. For me, I always want to be ready to do whatever it takes. Like when I was selling art on the street in China in '89, right? Yeah. Every night I had to fight to get my cardboard into the fucking place of the sidewalk, right? And that was a great fucking thing.
That was a little one.
Because every day I had to, I'm like the only like white guy in China selling on the streets, like literally, probably in history. Like I'm sitting there in China
So that relates to kind of the question that I had.
And I loved it because I had to fight it out both to get the space and also I also had to try to sell without speaking Chinese. and trying to sell by pantomiming and showing the big or small and this is better and, getting people laughing and like, and that was like, I had to sell almost without words, right? Yeah. And so like I had to like, and it was like, I ended up making good money. I ended up making good money and learning a lot. And I was like, I was out of money. I was going around the world. I had worked in a sawmill, which was a great job because this girl, her dad owned a sawmill. She got me a job in a sawmill in Sweden. So that was a good job. It was a nice job. And, I lived in her house across the street and go to work, walk to work, and then, chew tobacco and do log things, right? Wood things. And here I was out of money. I'm like, my dream of traveling the world is over. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just like, see people selling on the streets and you don't need a fucking visa for that. And I'm like, I'm going to sell something on the streets, man. I don't know what it is. And then I can't do art. So I fucking found this French guy who lived in my building. He was good at drawing and he was a heroin addict. Like he was famous heroin addict in this building. Famous? Yeah. Everybody in the building knew this guy. But he was good at art. So I said, hey, draw me some pictures and I'm going to go sell them. And he's like, this is perfect for him because he can sit there and then I'll give him money at the end of the day. And he's like stoked, right? So he's drawing pictures for me and I'm going out every night, I'm putting the things out in the street and I'm selling them. And then I was like, yeah. And then I made money. I made good money doing that, right? And that was how I finished my trip. Did I ever sell this story on Ronin, man?
Yeah.
You
Okay.
told part of it. You didn't tell all.
Because the money in that locker was hilarious.
You
That
said
part.
you were just walking the streets of China.
No. I had one place on the street.
I didn't know you were having bone fights and like,
I had to like.
pantomiming and
It
shit.
was hard to it was hard to sell. And also people would always walk over my paintings because they couldn't see them because it was dark at night. It was just imagine 89 in a third world country at night. That was when people would come to this dock at night.
Selling it at night?
Yeah, it was at night because when everybody would be
They
there.
didn't see anything.
No one could see, so they'd be walking all over my paintings. So like I was trying to like keep them away, like these huge crowds of people, so they wouldn't walk over my paintings, right? And then because then I'd have to pay for it without selling it, right? So I'm like trying to keep them away from my paintings, and then I'm like pointing, like there's so many people they can't even look down, and then they look down, and I'm like, trying to get them to stop with the sea of people's going by, and then I'm getting some money, I'm paying the guy off. Every day I'm just going back. I was staying in this Nigerian dormitory. But for guys that didn't hear it, this is a good part. So I made Hong Kong money, which was big. Now, like American money is small, right? $100 bill is huge. It's super small. Like it's a lot of money, but it's one bill. Hong Kong money was very big. And so when you made like $100, it was a lot of bills. So I would just get a lot of money in my pockets. And then I'd go back to I lived at this dormitory with all these Nigerians. And then they all had no money. And it was like $1.50 a day in this dormitory. And so I was the only white guy living in this dormitory with the Nigerians. So I'd come back at night and these guys would steal anything I left out. They were cool. I like these guys. They were really cool actually. But they would take stuff, So anyway, they probably needed it, whatever. I didn't care, it was fine. And so they actually taught me, they were like Nigerian mafia guys. They taught me a lot about physical game. They knew about physics. They had a Nigerian way of game. It was interesting. So I learned game from different people. But so anyway, at night I'd come home and then they'd usually be sleeping, right? I'd come over and open my locker and I'd just get like a wad of cash and just like shove it in the locker and then close it, lock it up and go back, right? And so every night I just come back and like slide a handful of cash underneath the other cash, And so finally, like one day they were all gone in the afternoon. So I was like, I wonder how much money I got now because I've been doing this 30 days now, So I opened the locker, and when the whole locker was full of money, like crumpled up money. And it wasn't tons of money. I don't know what it was in '89. It was probably, I finished my trip, so it was probably like $4,000 or something, And that was a shit ton of money for me, Because now I could finish my trip, my dream, go to Mars, right? I just wanted to finish my trip. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to ask my parents for money. I was very young, but I wanted to finish my trip. That was my trip to Mars. I had to finish my trip, right?
You still finish your trip?
Like most people, they'll just ask for money, they'll just go home. All will live with Nigerians and sell pictures on the street. Like, I'm going to Mars, like, no matter what. I'm going to fucking Mars now, So that was my goal. So I opened it up and it was all full of crumpled up money. And the whole thing fell out when I opened it. When I opened the door all the way, it all fell out on the ground. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm going to get robbed. Like I'm definitely going to get robbed. So I just fucking grabbed that money, packed it up tight, stuck it in my bag, surrounded with dirty socks, and then fucking took off, right? And finished my trip, right? That's how it relates to other things too, because I think this search for truth and ability to pivot is extremely valuable in business, because most people, not only can they not be honest with themselves, they can't be honest with their business. So their business sucks, their job sucks. And they say my job sucks, but they're not really saying it, right? It's like bullshit. They don't want to change. They don't want to know. I want to know. My job sucks. My life sucks. I want to know that. Yeah, because otherwise, what am I? It sucks anyway. This is a great point. I forgot to say that. There's a key fucking point, is that everybody can see everything about you. You're the only one who's not admitting it. Everybody knows your faults. Like people around you, they all know. So what I'm saying about being truthful, it's not like it's like there's this great Onion article, the funniest Onion article ever. The guy is like, it says, man mistakenly still thinks he's in the closet. Yeah, it's the funniest article, something like that. And the guy's like, they interview him and he's like, well, I'm gay, but like I can't tell my friends. And his friends are like, everybody knows he's gay, but he just can't admit it. He should just be honest. Like, we don't care. We all know he's gay, And then the guy, that is the best article, because it's just so true, something like that. That's fucking, if you want a good kick in the ass, just read that one, because it's like, that's what you're doing when you're being dishonest. So it's not like, I'm not saying be honest, like some big fucking, you're not like getting the gold medal. Pretty much everybody knows, but here's what the thing is, most people, they're lying to you too. See, so here's what most people's rule is, right? Is I'll lie about myself, and then I'll ignore you lying about yourself, and we can be friends, right? That's the agreement. Okay, so I'll tell you I'm the CEO of a WordPress template, just some website, and I'll say I'm a CEO, and then you can say you're the chief ideas officer. We can all have fake jobs, and we can all pretend like we're rich together, and you can post a fake picture on Instagram, and I'm not going to say anything, and then I'll post a fake girlfriend on Instagram. How about that? And this is the secret rule you have. If you're lying to yourself, this is actually the way you live your life. Like, your friends are like that too. The whole thing is fake. Everybody around you is fake. You're fake. Everybody is like just ignoring shit, and it's a shit show of fakery once you go down that road. So what I'm saying is actually very, very simple, and it takes a lot of weight off your shoulders, and you can actually start just see where you're going. Like, are you going to Mars? No, don't want to. Where am I going? Well, I'm going. I'm in a wheelchair, or I'm hobbling to this next, whatever, So that's why, if you need any motivation for this, it's not like I'm saying I'm this super honest guy. I just see how ridiculous the whole thing is, and I'm like, that's not where I want to go. I would prefer to go to Mars. It's like, it really is the red pill for your whole life, right? The red pill is not about women or society or the mass media. It's like that does you no good. The red pill is you, It's your red pill. What are you doing? I don't want to even say it again. Like, I pretty much said it. So that's the red pill, what I just said the last hour or whatever. So take that for what it's worth. I'm not saying you should live this way. I have no fucking idea. But that's my bag. So basically, that's the way I do it. So that's, if you wonder, why I would say that, people would say, well, he's okay, here's the other thing. Don't put labels on it, okay? Because people are going to say, oh, he's the guy who will say things people don't want to hear. Did I say that?
No.
I said something very complex and nuanced, okay?
Yep.
So you have to hear the whole thing in order to hear what I said. That's why I do long videos, because it doesn't fit into something. Like, otherwise people say, they'll listen to this and they'll be like, oh, he just said A, B, C. Like, why don't you say it sooner? Why don't you say it faster? Like those animation videos. You know, how to start your car when the battery's this. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these. These can be incredibly good, right? You know, they 1, 2, 3. No, they can be, there are things like that.
Full life.
First check this, then check that. Fill the water in there. Check it's plugged in. There's certain things in certain ways. But when you're talking about red pilling yourself, it's hard. Okay? It's fucking hard. And it's not easy. And that's why nobody fucking does it. So if you want to do it, you have to be willing to listen to the whole thing. If somebody's not willing to listen to an hour video, what are the odds they're going to red pill themselves? Like, really? The odds are basically zero. Yeah, they're zero. Because they're not really, you know. You want to change your life in 3 easy steps? You know, I mean, it could. I mean, some things are like that. You know, you might really, well, but I mean, sometimes you could, sometimes things like, sometimes your honesty can be jolted by an ABC thing, right? Where you see, like, you know, Thailand has tightened its rule on expats. They have done this, they have done this. The place now sucks, right? I'm not saying that, but I mean, like, it might help you to say, it's true. You know, like when I moved to Austin, it was really open, and now it's not. Now it's really expensive, you know, or it might help you to see that things have changed or something. I mean, I'm not saying it has no value. Like, those short videos have value, but what I'm trying to do is, like, if you really want to change something, you're not being able to change any other way, this could be the channel where you might be able to do that, right? Because the other channels are not able, I don't see them as being, like, this is the way that I've been able to, and way before Ronin Man, I've had, like, I'll just end on this, but I have people call me all the time, and they say, you saved my life, or you changed my life. And, like, all the time, like, outside Ronin Man, friends, and they're like, I'm like, you didn't change, I didn't change life, you changed life. And they're like, shut the fuck up. I'm going to call you every year on this day anyway. Like, you changed my life, so fuck you. You know, I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? So the thing is, it's like, I like to do it. I'm into it. I'm into doing it for myself. And I don't really see any other way. Like, the other ways are all being done. If you need that other thing, there's always someone to do that. But it's not me. I'm not into that. That's not my thing. You know, it's like something real. You want to change something? You're full of shit. You're going to kill yourself? You know what I mean? You're going to let it go? Fuck that. Give it a fucking try. Try something new. Try something new. Because this is the type of shit that people kill themselves on. It's because they can't fucking change. And they're like, it's not going to work. I can't change. You can change, but it requires a whole new way of thinking. You can change. There's no need. There's no need. All right, that's it.